Hey, sports fans, Larry Eder, Run Blog Run, your favorite program, Socialing to Distance. Today we have Josh Kerr. He is a Brooks Beast member. You have made how many? You've made one world championship team, or have you made two?
I've made two. I made London 2017 and then Doha in 2019.
Awesome. Josh, great to see you. And I just want to tell you how awesome the race was last weekend. It just was killer at the Stumptown Twilight. And you ran 3:31:55. Did it surprise you?
If anything, it surprised me. It was as slow as it was.
Okay.
If any, I'm in really great shape, and if conditions were good, and pacing was good, I was hoping to go a bit closer to 30, but I was obviously happy with the results. It's the second PB for me, and I enjoy racing like that. I think it's exciting to watch. It's exciting to race like that, and I'm down on my visa as an entertainer, so that's what I have to do. You see.
There you go. Because you just ran a 13:23, correct? For
yeah,
5,000?
that's correct, yeah.
So how did that feel? Were you pretty confident with that?
A lot different, yeah. So for me, I train a lot. In college, I trained mostly with the 10K guys, and then I never ran a 5K in college. I ran at 8 and 15s in college all the way through.
Wow.
And so I've always had 5K strength, especially when I moved to Danny as well. He kind of saw that I'm more of a strength-based athlete. I think I have good natural speed. And so it was my second ever 5K. I ran my first one back in 2019. And that was, I think, 13:28 or so. So, yeah, I just wanted to kind of PB and go for it. And it was hard. It was, I ran an 800 the week before at Mount Sac. And so it was kind of an odd double to do the 800 5K within 6 days. But it was just testing my range a little bit. And I enjoy the distance. I think it's a really hard distance. It's for the mentally tough. And for me, I just went in there and had fun with some of my teammates and Garrett Heath and David Rubich. And so we just, went hard, and sadly, Garrett was, I think, 0.7 off the US standard, but it was lovely running with those guys. But I'm a once a year kind of guy with the 5K, but I enjoyed it.
Your 800, I was quite impressed with. Were you happy with the 800 too?
Yeah, I think, training for a 5K and then running an 800 was just kind of just see where my natural speed was at. And, 1:45.7 or so is, nothing to be annoyed at for kind of training for the 5K. So it just showed that, I don't need to work super hard on my speed to be able to close well in races. So yeah, no, it was the 800 is a lot easier for me. The pain only lasts for maybe a minute or so or 50 seconds. But in that 5K, I was hurting from like 1,200 in, and I was like, wow, there is a lot of laps left in this race. So, Danny was shouting at me, trying to keep me motivated and getting me moving. And, I enjoy struggling, and that's why I really enjoy this sport. So that's why I do have a little soft spot for the 5K.
Cool. So you went to the University of New Mexico, and your coach there was Joel Franklin. What was the difference? If you look now and you were comparing the training that you're doing now, the training you did in college, how would you explain the difference?
It's very scientific now. Danny he's a nerd. He's a track nerd. He knows exactly what we're doing to the T and when we should do it, and paces and altitude. And, he knows more of my life, my overall life, like what I do on a day-to-day basis. Like if I turn up tired to practice, you'll probably know why. Or if I turn up feeling great, so it's just, you're so much more invested with your coach as a professional. It's like, you're with them every day, and it's more of a personal relationship than like a hierarchy, you could say. You go and you pick your, professional coach. And for me, I had full trust in Danny from the minute I signed with Brooks, or the minute they even came with a contract with me. I thought, this is the man for me. A young, super eager, nerdy coach is just kind of what I was looking for. And, it's that's kind of how I like to work. So, but Joe was great. I think, he was able to instill what he had already done in the past with me, with other athletes, the likes of Lee Emanuel and such. And he's really good at developing milers from, I came in as a 344.15 guy and finished at 335. a great step towards professional. So, he did a great job with me there, especially at a much younger age than Danny had to deal with me. I think Joe probably had to deal with the harder parts of me. And obviously Danny, it's a bit easier because I want to be there. I want to do the best I can for the company of Brooks and for my own career as well. So he didn't have to deal with the school stuff. So I would say Joe probably had a harder job.
Do you guys work out with the Brooks Beast every day together?
So we officially meet 5 days a week, but we unofficially meet every day.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, it's just like we're all really good friends. Our men's team is really tight. It's been reasonably unchanged since I signed, which is just really, really nice. Brooks has great faith in the athletes, especially with the contracts that they give them with no reduction clauses. It's a very home and family feel with that. And that, I don't feel like that's spoken about enough, where in this sport, you don't have a lot of job security, you could say. And I would say Brooks does that incredibly well. Like standing on that start line for the Olympic trials this year, I've only got one worry, and that's to make the team. It's not, am I going to keep my contract or am I going to lose money? It's I'm going to try and make this team and do my company, do myself, and do my team proud. So yeah, we work really well together, and we have a fantastic miler squad. We have obviously Henry Wynn just ran 3:34. David Rubich is going to run the 15 at the trials, and he's obviously got the qualifying time for the US trials as well. He's been running really well in the 5K as well. And then Isaac Yorks has been battling with a little bit of an injury, but there's the fittest guy that hasn't raced. And I think the first race he's going to run this year is US trials. And for a miler squad, you can't ask for much better than that. You can go up to the likes of Garrett Heath in the 5K and down to Drew Windle and Brandon Kidder down in the 800. So yeah, I'm not complaining.
Yeah, no, I watched Danny in the Dan Rivich in the 5,000 with Lopez. And that was, if you talk about entertaining, that was really down to the wire. I love that. Let's talk about the entertainment part of the sport for a bit, because I know you have real beliefs there. And so I'm going to make you the head of programming for the American network NBC, okay? You got 3 days, all right? Yeah. And you can change anything. You are the czar of track and field. How would you change the presentation of the sport? What would you tell athletes and how they present themselves? Give me 2 or 3 ideas.
Well, so I think if it was USA track and field, I've never been to US Olympic trials. I've been to a British Olympic trials. I've been to British World trials. I've been to all this stuff. I think doing over the amount of time that it's done, I think is too stretched out. I think an intense week or 5 days or whatever is really fun. I mean, British trials is over 3 days. It's actually over 2 days for most events. I think most of the events are Friday, Saturday, which is what we're going to be. And it's so intense and it's so exciting, and there's not a boring moment. And I think, we lose a lot of the audience in this sport through boring events, or dragged out events, or time in between events. And so for me, it's just, trying to consolidate that into a smaller window where, major championships is fine. Olympics, World Championships is always going to be entertaining. But, when you come to maybe another track meet, having like 6 or 7 sections and stuff it does get a little bit much. But, people like Portland Track do great, where it's a full day of events where, the later on it gets, the faster the events are. So people can kind of turn up later on in the day if they wanted to. So, and I think, in regards to how athletes kind of hold themselves, I would say that's more down to the media than anything else, because they tell the stories. They're the ones that have the platforms for us to kind of, show our personalities. And that comes with asking the right questions, post races, pre races, having the right commentary to keep everything entertaining. And, the likes of, Kyle Merber and Chris Chavez as well doing their stuff.
They do fantastic.
Some of the most interesting commentating out there, you know what I mean? Like they bring personality to the sport, and that's what we kind of need. And for me, racing wise, I love racing fast. I love racing hard, and hopefully that's entertaining to watch.
What's something that I, as a member of the media, do not know about you that you'd like people to know?
Well, so I mean, I have a podcast who we were talking about David Ribich before, and that's kind of what we like to talk about. Is, you know, the problem is like the people who are interviewing after races, the questions of like, you know, how's training been, or like how was the race and stuff like that. You know, like people have heard all that before, and you're not going to get like crazy stuff from that. And it's just kind of knowing the athlete specifically, and like knowing their struggles and their battles, and kind of making them a bit more human than just being like, oh yeah, I ran this crazy workout that no one else will be able to do, you know? And for me, like, I'm trying to think, because I do speak a lot on our podcast about lots of stuff, but for me, like, I think what's really entertaining and interesting right now in the 1500 is I'm not built like a lot of 1500 meter runners. And I think that comes from seeing, if you see the top of the world at any distance and you go, okay, the 10K, you've got to be, you know, skinny. It's okay being short. Or like for sprinting, it was like you used to have to be quite short, compact, and whatever. And then Usain Bolt comes around, and now you've got a lot more tall sprinters. Mm-hmm. And for me, you know, when I was growing up, it was like, you know, there's not a lot of people that look like me around here. Maybe this isn't the sport for me. However, being this kind of size, the engine I can bring to the 1500, the power that I can bring to the 1500, the natural speed that you can have from that power is second to none. It's better than being a small, like skinny, you know, 6 foot guy. From my point of view, if you use that kind of for you. So having, you know, someone who's my size speak up about that. So people who are in my position when I was 13, 14, looking at the top of the world in the 1500, being like, okay, maybe this event's not for me. But maybe seeing a guy looking like me, or maybe promoting that all shapes and sizes, as long as you play towards your strengths, are good enough to be at the top of the world in something is what I find quite interesting.
Well, Herb Elliott, the 1960 Olympic champion in the 1500, was taller and bigger than most, and Peter Snell looked like a midfielder. And the thing is what Snell would say, and then he followed it up with science. He said, look, bigger guy, get into shape, you can handle a lot more beating. And that's what Arthur Lydiard would talk about all the time. Mm-hmm. But you're from Scotland, correct?
Yes.
And Graham Williamson was, you know, I've met Graham a few times, and I idolize the guy. I mean, wow, the stuff that he's done is phenomenal. Is he one of the people that Scottish middle distance runners still look up to?
100%. I mean, the records that he has, even in the age group stuff, is stuff that you're like, wow, this guy was something. And you know, it's not difficult to look around Scotland right now and find some motivation in their runners. You know, our Commonwealth Games team is going to be one of the strongest at the event. You know, we took a full Scottish 1500 meter team to Doha in 2019 in the 1500. You know, we have a great 5K and Andy Butchart. We have, you know, great 800 meter runners. So, and women as well, 800, 1500 with Laura Muir, Gemma Reekie, Ailish McColgan, up in the 5 and 10. So, I mean, we're definitely in an era right now with Scottish athletics that is just, you know, motivating, hopefully for younger athletes to know that even though you come from a small place, that you know, the kind of grit and determination that you can get as a Scottish runner, and it's there, and you have every facility and ability to be at the top of the world at something. So it's a great time to be a part of Scottish athletics and be part of that kind of movement towards being a country that's, you know, at the top of the world in the sport.
I hung out in Glasgow in 14 during the Commonwealth Games, and I teased a couple of the Scottish papers. I told them that I was there as an observer for the U.S. because we're going to try to join the Commonwealth again. And I had people believe in it, man. It went on for about 5 days, but I did eat haggis for 18 straight days. Yeah, I stayed in an hotel by the university. It was like 25 quid a night, right? And then there was a place called Johnson's Club right next door. And I told the guy what I was doing, and he said, as long as I had 2 pints each night, he'd make me a different type of haggis. So I would go and I had a haggis thing with chicken and pasta. I mean, and Ian Stewart was there, who's a buddy of mine, and he just looked at me after about 5 days and shook his head. He said, you don't have a stomach. And I said, well, yeah, I do. It's an American stomach. It's okay, man, you know. But, you know, you have this great history in Scotland. I mean, I've known Ian for years, and you had was it Lachie Stewart who beat Ron Clark in the Commonwealth Games? And what is it? What is the middle distance and distance tradition? Why is that in Scotland? It seems like it's been there for a long, long time, and now it's totally. You guys are just kicking butt.
Well, I think, I can't speak to what to previous generations, but what I would say right now is, we have some very hardworking Scottish athletics workers and employees, and they're passionate about growing the sport from the grassroots from when I was, 11, 12 years old. It only takes, one or two to go out and have success and come back and really, speak about that. And we had the athletes that were able to go out, the likes of Chris O'Hare, to go out and sit and do Q&A panels a couple times a year. And that's all it takes to go, oh, wow, like I'm training where he trained with the same coach where he was, 5 years ago. So why don't I just follow that step by step and see what happens? Cool. That's what I did. And this is where I ended up. So, yeah.
Was there a race that you ran that lets you know that American unis would be interested in you and that you had a chance to go on in the sport?
Yeah. So, I wanted to go to the US ever since I was maybe 11 or 12 years old, mainly because of watching videos and hearing stories of just like the facilities and the talent that comes out of these universities. And I knew I'd go over there and work hard. So I knew I'd find success, because I felt like the reason that people went over there was because they didn't do enough and kind of failed, was because they didn't do enough research into what suited them best, and then didn't work hard enough when they were there. Because sometimes you go to somewhere new with great facilities and if you don't change anything, you're not going to get any better. So for me, it was like I did so much research into like different universities. I spoke to, all these different, British people, being like, where should I go? What's good? What's bad? I've still got the list of 25 universities from Chris O'Hare, who messaged me at least 4 sentences, what's good and what's bad about the top 25 universities in the US.
Wow.
That's the kind of support that Scottish athletes have for each other. And so from there, I was trying to get recruited at 16. I left school at 17 to go over to the US. And so I was sending these emails out to all these coaches being like, look, I would love to come out and race for you, whatever. I'd ran like 3:52 in the 1500 at 16. And so good for a 16-year-old, not good for an NCAA athlete, that kind of thing. Yeah. Because there was a couple of years until I probably should have been there. And then I got an email back from Joe Franklin over at UNM, and he just said, "We want you." And I was like, that was about it. He wrote it in the subject line of an email, and I was like, all right, I'm sold. I'm done, whatever. Cool. I then run European Juniors that year, win it in 3:44. And so I take 8 seconds off my PB that I emailed him with. And so I then emailed him again being like, hey, this is what I just done. And he was like, this is amazing. We obviously want you. So fly out August 1st. And so I didn't visit. I'd never been to the US before. I was like, all right. So I was 17, got on a flight and flew over to Mexico. And that was just kind of all she wrote, really.
How was your family about you leaving Scotland and going to...
They knew why. They definitely spoke to a couple of families that had kind of gone through the same thing. They had to come with me because I wasn't able to sign my own papers.
Yeah, sure. I was wondering.
Yeah, it was pretty embarrassing. I'm not going to lie. Having my parents around, having to sign all the papers for me to be released to go to university, it was pretty bad. But it was, it was great to have them. They came with me and they got me settled into my accommodation, and they were just like, go and do your thing. You know why you're here, and you've done all this research, so make sure you work hard and let's see what happens. So, yeah, I've always had a plan to turn professional ever since I'd stepped into college, but I just didn't know how easy it was going to be, how hard it was going to be, and how long it was going to take. So it took me about a year to settle into UNM and to live on my own and everything like that with the altitude. And then from there, I found success in my sophomore year.
Who is your agent?
My current agent is Ray Flynn.
Okay, yeah, I know Ray pretty well. I've got pictures of him when he was running, and I can embarrass him Actually, I held his sweats for him You'll love this story. This is 1980. Runner's World magazine did an indoor track meet. I had been in the Olympic Development 3000, 22 laps, man, for a 3K. Okay, think about that.
There's no way.
160 yards of wood track, and it bounced. There had never been a sub 4-minute mile. And so the publisher of Runner's World brought in John Walker, Ray Flynn, Steve Scott, like 10 guys whose slowest PB was 3:55. They tried to bring a kid in from Iowa State who's a 3:57 guy, and the man putting on the meet, Tony Campbell, who's an agent now, said, I can't get you in. My 11th guy is a 3:55, right? So they end up running. There's 8 guys who break 3:57 in the race. There's a $15,000 prize purse. So, and then the publisher goes crazy. So he gives it out and he goes, yeah, but you guys all have got to come back and run a 15K on the track on Sunday. And they did it for like their run. Someone broke, Pete Fitzinger broke the world record for 15K on the track at the time, but it was just insanity. And we would, we'd run a 3K on a Friday night and we'd run a 10K on a Sunday. Because I raced 40 times a year, and that was pretty typical. The milers, you'd see them running a race on Saturday night in Meadowlands, and then I'd see the guys run. They'd be in the 20 miler with me on Sunday, So it was a different world, but you got to meet everybody, which kept it kind of fun. Workouts. I want to talk to you about a couple more things. Let's talk about Brooks for a minute, your sponsor. You are completely correct in saying that Brooks is an unusual company for a sponsor. I analyze 47 running shoe brands, okay? So that's part of my job. I know everybody that's out there. I also know that virtually all of them, if you get hurt, if something gets weird during the pandemic, they did reductions. There's a handful that just said, like Brooks, hey, this is crazy time. Don't worry, we want you to stay focused. And Kara Goucher said it to me best one time. She said that in 2007, all she worried about was getting to the line and running that 10 in Osaka. Nothing else mattered. And what you said about, hey, when I go to the selection race, all I'm worrying about is making the team. That's a big deal, because if you're worrying about everything else, it takes away from your being able to compete. What is it about Danny that you enjoy as a coach?
I enjoy his passion for the sport. I enjoy being able to stand on a start line knowing that I'm able to trust my coach 100%. And so you'll rarely see in the last, 3 years, the whole time I've been with him, a bad race, because we're really strategic in the way that we do things. And I have a crazy amount of respect and a crazy amount of trust with him. And so we were able to build that, because when I first signed, I was asking him so many questions. I was like, why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? Like, I want to understand this. I don't ask him anything anymore. I've realized my mistakes of standing there before a workout for 20 minutes, him explaining what little things need to be done here, there, and the next thing. So I think, he's not been a coach as long as, as other professional coaches around. But I love that he's sometimes able to, he'll run with us sometimes, or he'll, he knows what's going on. He's at every practice. Like those are the kind of little things that kind of set apart coaches for me. Like if a coach isn't going to be at practice every day, I'm like, well, you don't know what's going on with me. Danny cares about what's going on with all of us every single day. And so those guys are in Seattle right now. The whole team's in Seattle, except for me right now, because I'm about to fly out to the UK. And I have a house here in Albuquerque. So it's like we're in closer contact now than we would be if he's here. So it's just like it's a give and take. It's like he turns up, he does his job, he's passionate, and he's just so trustworthy. And so for me, it's very easy to stand on a start line and be confident, because what I've said to him before is, I'm doing the final touches. I'm painting on the canvas, but it's you're giving me the paint. You know what I mean? So I will give you everything I've got on race day. I won't hold anything back. I'll do everything I can. We'll do exactly what we say the race plan is. And if we're wrong somewhere, then we can go back to the training and we can look what it is, because that's the way I like to race is like all like everything's left on the track, and then we come home and we analyze and we go, okay, this is what we need to work on, because we've given a full effort, so therefore we have all this analysis, all this data to analyze. So yeah, it's a lot of fun working with them, and hopefully we have a long career together.
Is there a workout you absolutely detest, but you know that you're there? Could you share a little bit with us without revealing anything that you don't want to reveal?
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, I'm very open in the stuff that I do. I'm very open and honest at all the training and everything that I do. I think, there's no special sauce for me. It's consistency, but sure. I'm trying to think. We do a lot of longer tempos here. And for me, like a bread and butter workout, like 10 400s off like 90 seconds up here at altitude is something that I will always do for 1500 practice.
Okay.
However, the tempo work that we do up here, I did like a 7-mile tempo up here at 5,000 feet. Not crazy quick, like 5:09 average, I think it was. Right. A week out from that 331. But all it was was like 90 degrees, and we were out on the trail, and it was just like, let's struggle. I enjoy struggling. I think it's a really good mental exercise for me, because there's always going to be a struggle in the race. It's obviously going to be more for a 5K and maybe less for 15, but I think that's why I've got one of the best third laps of 1500 in the world right now. It's because
I was totally impressed, because that's my, I coached juniors and then I coached Division I for a couple of years. And in talking to the European coaches, the thing they said, Americans at the time were not gutty in that third lap. And that's where you make it or break it, Yes. And what you did with the 56:04 that you did, I was like, wow, he is so on, And then I was curious to see what you could come back at. And coming back at a 57 rocks.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're going to the British trials, and you have got, I think this is a better crew than I've seen since when Cram and Seb and Ovette were running. And there's the big players, and then there's the guys right underneath.
Yeah.
There is you screw up, you're sixth,
Yeah.
Do you, and it's going to be interesting, because you don't know if someone's going to go and just, I've been watching Jake run, and I'm kind of going, okay, wow, he's hot. And he goes the other day, so 334 is not much. And he realizes that this is going to be, we'll be up watching it. Are you getting excited about the trials? Or do you get nervous before big races? How does that work for you?
I love the trials. I think it's as enjoyable as the major champs in a certain way, because that one day scratches everything that you've done in the past. Like, there's no handicaps. There's no, it's not like someone gets to start before you or anything like that. So I love the intensity of it, to be honest, because I think this is why I'm in the sport. I love pressure, and I think I thrive off it, and I just love suffering as well. So it's a fun time. I'm really, really fit. So for me, inside personally, I'm like, I know I'm going to make the team, because that's the way I look at things. Mm-hmm. I've been working a lot on the mental side of things to keep my nerves under control, because everyone gets nerves. Like, mine aren't crazy, but there's definite I want to make sure that today's right kind of thing. But I want to race the best races in the world. And if I don't make the UK team, then I can tell you for a fact that it's going to be a really strong team. But for me, it's, I love turning up on the day and doing my job, and it has to be the exact same on August 7th for the Olympic final. So I just see it as a great opportunity, as a dry run, to know what I'm doing right and know what I'm doing wrong, really.
In 2019 in Doha, you did your job. You ran 3:32.2, I believe, sixth place.
Yeah, something like that.
And were you happy with that race?
It's one of those things where, beforehand, if you told me that I was 6 and 2:32, then I would have been happy. However, that's one of the fastest, a world final in however many years. So if you look at all these previous years, like, oh, Josh, you would have won it in 2:32 kind of thing. Obviously it never works out that way. However, I realized that I'm not a guy that turns up to major championships anymore and is happy to make the final. That's what I learned. I learned that I've always been in this sport to make medals and to be on the top of the world, but it does take a few years to get there. And that was my realization that, okay, I'm good enough to medal. Let's get back to work. Let's train harder. Let's train smarter, and let's be consistent. And there's no reason that I can't win the Olympics this year. And that's kind of the realization for me, because we had such a long season. Like I started the season in January or February for indoors. And then I opened up maybe in April or May. And then we finished October 6th, I believe.
Yeah.
And I was like, is this it kind of thing? Because obviously I didn't get a medal, or I obviously made the final, but I didn't get a medal or I got a PB. And I was like, this is it. Like, this is the end of my season. And I was like, this is the most anticlimactic thing ever, you know?
Yeah.
So for me, it was just, go back to work and know my weaknesses, work on them, and just be better.
I'm going to give you the names of 5 or 6 athletes now. You're allowed 5 words to describe them, okay? Timothy Chariot.
5. So I have 5 words.
Yeah.
I'll try and make a little sentence.
Okay.
Great front runner. Hopefully I catch him.
Cool. Awesome. All right. Matthew Centrowitz.
He's been getting a lot of stick on social media, so I'll just say was great in 2016.
Okay. Jake Whiteman.
I have a lot of respect for Jake, so hopefully on the team with me.
Jake Haywood.
Also a good all the British guys I'm good friends with, so made great progress this year.
Chris O'Hare.
A very big role model.
Nick Willis.
Let me think here. Very decorated career.
Okay. Craig Engels.
Just an absolute jokester. That's what I would say.
I just saw his videos last night, man. It was like Trailer Park Boys. I swear to God. And that coat, I've seen guys wear that coat like Kid Rock and 70s rockers. And I'm just, what planet is he coming from? If you were in a room with Hobbs Kessler, the young kid who's doing so well right now, and I think he comports himself pretty darn well for being a youngster, what would you tell him?
I would tell him to make sure that his circle is incredibly tight and trust the people around him that he has already trusted before he ran that crazy good time, and sit down and make some really tough decisions over this next year or so. I think he's going to get offered an amazing contract from any team, from any company, most likely Adidas, and Nike will be going after him. And I think this is where the vultures come in. And so it's really, really important for him it looks like he has a great little circle right now. I wouldn't let anyone new in that circle anytime soon. So just trust the decisions of the people who are experienced around you, your parents, and make sure that you're not doing anything too quickly or too rash. And just stick to what you want to do. I mean, if he goes to college, I'm sure he'll be very successful in college. If he wants to be professional, he'll be a very successful pro, but you'll have to go through a couple of tough years maybe of kind of having to be up against the pros every single time. And it's a tough circuit, but he obviously has the talent. He's a very, very talented athlete, evidently. But I think this is a really important time for him to take his time and stick with his circle that he's got and trust the decisions of the people around him.
What is the toughest part of a 1500 for you?
It kind of depends on what kind of way. Like if it was like a paced race, the 1500, for me, last week was just trying to survive that last 100 meters, to be honest, because I pushed really hard, obviously, on that third lap. So that last 100, I was right in the way that I closed the last 100. I think I had more there. I just needed to be a bit more focused. So I'm obviously working on that a little bit. But normally it's just if you not moving, like sticking to your position is very important. And so if you're doing all these different moves, it's just wasting energy. I did the same in Doha for the semifinal. I tried to move up once, got pushed all the way back to the back, tried it again, pushed all the way back to back. So I just gave up. I was like, okay, I'm just going to sit here then. I'll wait around and I'll kick when it's necessary. So sometimes just the acceptance of your positioning is the hardest thing, to just be content with maybe being in a position you don't like to be in. But if you're patient, you'll always run a lot better than being antsy and trying to do crazy stuff in lane 2 or lane 3.
Early in my career, I got into some very physical races, qualifying for things, especially at 10,000, where literally there were punches thrown. How do you feel about it in a championship, especially in the rounds, right? You're trying to get through. People are pushing, and you've got people who've never raced there before, and you've got other people who know how to use a good elbow, and they have to, and the officials aren't watching. Yeah. How do you juggle that? I mean, I talk to it like it's sometimes watching you guys race indoors at a championship is like roller derby and professional wrestling put together. It's quite entertaining, right?
Yeah.
But how do you stay on your feet?
I think being a bigger guy and taking up a bit more space is a lot easier with that, but it's just kind of being more aware of your surroundings and having good reaction time, really, because I've been in plenty of races where people fall and you have to kind of jump over, or, you're boxed in or someone's boxed in and they're trying to get out and they're angry about it. And it's just, again, it's keeping your composure and making sure you're aware of what's going on. So it's having a nice tight pack in 1500 is always a little bit scary. But yeah, just if you're able to stay on your feet, you'll be fine. So you just the hurdle.
What's the perfect last lap for you?
Oh, see, now I'm giving away my secrets. No, I think, in championship races, I never like to leave it just to the last 4. Sometimes it's necessary, sometimes it's needed, but, I like to be in the top couple. If you're not in the top 4, then you're going to have a lot of work to be done, especially if you're in a good championship race. But I think I'll hardly find myself there unless we're talking about a world or Olympic final.
There was one kid I wanted to ask you about that I forgot, and I apologize. Jakob Ingebrigtsen. How would you describe him?
I think he's making the sport popular. That's what I'll say. He's an exciting racer to watch. The whole Ingebrigtsen family loves a DQ or some sort of crazy something that'll happen. But I think, he's making the sport popular, and you can do nothing but admire that. He's running fast times as a young kid. So, I love racing him. I think it's exciting racing someone like that. And again, it brings more hype and entertainment to the crowd. So that's what I like to do.
Have you watched his TV show?
I haven't, no. Is it not like Keeping Up with the Kardashians or something? It's
a total train wreck, man. It's awesome. I mean, I stayed up one night. I said, I'm going to only watch one episode. I found it on YouTube, and I stayed up all night. And I was just like, because I'm trying to figure the dad out. And I've interviewed him a couple times. He's not a guy who knows a lot about track, but he's so detail-oriented. He figures out the things for them, and I think he does an amazing job. I want to go back to Danny for a minute. I interviewed him at the beginning of the pandemic, and I think he was going through withdrawal because he didn't get to see you guys every day, and it was funny to watch. I mean, and I've known Danny for a while, and I love, hey, how do you do this? How do you do that? And yeah, you're right. He is a geek. Do you guys do your long runs together?
Yeah. Yeah. We meet every Sunday.
What's a typical Sunday long one for you? Is it 15 to 20? Is it 14 to 15?
It depends what time of the season. I mean, last week I did 15. I'm mostly like a kind of 15, 16 for pre race time, and then race time's more like 12 to 14.
Okay. We're still in a pandemic, although some people don't seem to think so. And, I'm going to try to get over to Europe after the Olympics. obviously we're going to have our little vaccine passport. Do you have to go in quarantine when you go back over to the UK?
So British Athletics are providing athletes that are coming over for British trials with exemption letters. I'm not 100% sure how that's going to work. I think it just means that we can go and train. Okay. It doesn't exempt us from much else. I think we still need to get tested and stay inside and not go to any public places really. But I wasn't going to really do that anyway. So it's just an exemption letter to allow us to go outside and train pretty much.
The Olympics, in the best cases, an Olympic Village is a place where people, if they keep themselves to themselves, they stay healthy. If you're around everybody, you're going to get sick. I mean, Brendan Foster got, dysentery during the 76 Olympics, won Britain's only medal during that time in the 10. And so, in the best case, it's a challenge. How are you guys dealing with that right now? If Danny and you talked about, hey, Olympic Village is just one of those things you got to do, man, because you're going to be in Tokyo.
Yeah.
Is that how you're approaching it right now? Do you worry about any of that stuff?
It's not really. That's the kind of stuff that Danny puts on his plate. They kind of take it away from me. He'll kind of come to a conclusion with our whole staff. Kind of our nutritionist works a lot with time zones and with like accommodations and stuff like that, as well as our athletic trainer. They'll all figure that out. And Danny will kind of outsource and speak to other coaches and things like that, and kind of gauge an idea what people are going to try and do. But I think, British Athletics, what they're saying is you'll spend 2 weeks in Yokohama, and then three days before you'll go into the Olympic Village is what they're coming out and saying. So I'm not sure how I'm going to approach it. I know we'll be in close contact with British Athletics and make sure that it's a good decision for everyone. But for me, it's a stepping stone time, to be honest. It's, go home, go and do my job there, come back to the US, train at altitude for three weeks or so, and then make our decisions from there. But yeah, I mean, I'm open to any suggestions that Danny has, and we'll work it out with British Athletics pretty closely. So I think step one, make it. Step two, figure all that out, and step three, go out and do my job. So that's the goal.
All right. So you've just about survived 39 minutes with me. So good job. What's the name of your podcast?
It's the Sit and Kick podcast.
Okay. Are you okay if I do a link to a couple episodes so people can check it out?
Yeah, of course. That sounds great.
Cool. I just always like to check. Okay. I really think that it's awesome. And I learned so much from watching athletes such as yourselves kind of have some fun with it and things there. But I want to wish you the very best at the British. Want to wish you the very best in Tokyo. I am credentialed for Tokyo, but we're still seeing if they're going to let. I have the sneaking suspicion they're still going to say some media, hey, you're going to do it remotely. But you will run an awesome race. I'm totally convinced. I was very impressed with this 1500. And I'm impressed with the quiet confidence you have and a good sense of humor. And distance runners without a sense of humor, I don't know how the hell they make it. But Josh, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Travel safe, okay? And so this is Larry Eder with RunBlogRun. This was our program, Socialing the Distance. Today we featured Josh Kerr. He is a Brooks Beast-sponsored athlete, Scottish athlete, quite proud of that. And he'll be competing the last weekend in June at the British Olympic Trials. Josh, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Larry. Cheers.
Hey, sports fans, Larry Eder, RunBlogRun, your favorite program. And today we featured Josh Kerr. Josh Kerr is a Brooks Beast. He's a proud Scottish athlete. He also is going to be competing at the Mueller British Olympic Trials the weekend of the 26th, 27th, 28th of June. To make a berth on the 1500. At the Stumptown Twilight meet on June 3rd, he ran a brilliant, and I'll say brilliant again, brilliant 3:31:55. Josh told us that he thought he could have run probably in the 3:30s, and he may have needed to get out there a little quicker. I think he went out in about 57, another 57, Then he dropped to 56 on that third lap, showing some real maturity as a middle distance runner, but also showing him as a student of the sport. And then he finished up in 57.04 for 3:31.55. That was his third race in the last 6 weeks. He had a 1:45.74 down. That's what he opened up with down at Mount Sac, PB 1:45.35. So impressive. Then he ran a 13:23 for the 5,000. PB had been 13:28. Does that every once in a while. When he was at University of New Mexico with Joe Franklin, he said most of his training was based on 10,000 meters. Those are the guys that he trained with, even though he raced the 5 and the 1,500 and the 800. He's been with Danny Mackey now, and Danny is a coach. I like to use the line from Kenny Moore when he was describing the late Ron Hill. Danny Mackey is possessed by the scientific method. He is a nerd, he is a geek, and we all love him for that. But what he gives Josh is a sense of confidence that everything has been taken care of, so Josh can just race. And Josh gave high praise to his yes, that's a good word. He gave high praise to his sponsor Brooks for not having reductions in their contracts, supporting them through the pandemic, bringing Danny on board, who he thought was fantastic from day one. And Josh likes his training crew. He's got a great group at Brooks with Garrett Heath and a whole crowd. And Josh it was Danny Rivich who ran that 5,000 with Lopez about a week ago, which was pretty darn cool. Brooks has taken a group of 1,500 guys to the U.S. trials, and Josh will be over the British trials. Josh finished 6th in 2019 in Doha, 3:32. I think it was 3:32.3, just a little behind Seb Coe's 1984 performance and got him gold. What can he do in 2021? I think the guy can run 3:30. I think that he's tough as nails, and he reminds me of he runs like Peter Snell and Herb Elliott. He likes to embrace the pain. He encourages people to come and battle him, and he is a tough middle distance runner. In the tradition of the great Graham Williamson from Scotland, fast and fearless. So a lot of really tough Scottish runners right now. He gave praise to Gemma and Laura Muir and Jake Haywood and Andrew Bouchard. So he knows his history, he knows the people around there, and he loves his country, which is pretty cool. He does a podcast, Sit and Kick, and we're going to put a couple episodes up on that. But what he was encouraging media to do, such as myself, was to ask the unusual questions. So I was trying to ask him some different questions this time. I hope I achieved it, and we'll follow up with him after the Tokyo Olympics. But I think you'll enjoy the interview. This is Larry Eder with RunBlogRun. If you like RunBlogRun, like us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Really important. Those eyeballs, your eyeballs, are how we get paid. And it was for everybody. It was a struggle during the pandemic, and we're just starting to get going again. So your support means a lot to us. If you love us, and I think you do, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We've got over 2,500 audios and videos since 2010. And in the last year alone, we did over 369 videos, thanks to our production manager, Mike Deering, who's on the other end of all the Zoom stuff. And he tries to make me look good, which is a really difficult thing to do some days when I've got my Jeremiah Johnson beard, Anyway, stay safe, run with your friends, do it outside. When you're inside, even with, having shots and stuff and all that kind of jazz, and I sure hope you're vaccinated, wear a mask, stay safe. There's just so much we still don't know. I don't want anybody sick, and I want to see you all at track meets. I will be at the Olympic trials. I've been at the Portland Track Festival. I've been to the Stumptown Twilight. I've been to the Oregon Twilight. The Olympic trials are my favorite thing to do every 4 years. And then there's the Olympics. Olympics is still questionable for me, but the Olympic trials, I will be there. We'll be doing some fun programming. Talk to you soon. Stay safe.